You know, honey, this is it's our fifth week on the air.
Gosh.
We've been doing this. This will start week 5 of this nonsense.
Well, it feels like week 5.
It feels like week 5. This is our 21st show here on the Dave Konig Show on Facebook Live with my lovely co-host Susan Konig. You know what? We decided. Well, you decided to keep me out of trouble.
Yes.
That I should do a show every day on the Facebook, and I thought we'd knock out a couple of weeks worth and be done with this nonsense.
Wow, right?
And so here we are. This is our 21st show.
Wow.
And it looks like we're going to continue for at least another 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Let's do it.
And a little bad news for our audience: I ran out of material about 8 shows ago. So.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So we've been doing this, and what it's done for me is I have to say it's kept me busy.
Yes.
And it's kept me looking at my material and my jokes and stuff like that. And then then I got an itch to do my act.
Right.
I said, I haven't done my act since this whole thing began, and
That's right. No.
so there's nowhere to go do my act. I can't leave the house. Right? There's nowhere to perform.
Not really, no.
No. So I said, you know what? I think I kind of got a handle at this performing on the iPhone. This new thing of like just staring into my phone and ranting. So I thought, you know what? Why don't I do my act on the Facebook?
Yeah.
The way I do the show.
Right.
So I said, okay, let's do I'll do an hour show. I'll do my whole stand-up act.
Oh my God.
Do an hour comedy, and we'll do it.
I can't wait.
So we announced it. We said, okay, we're going to do this. And I just picked a date at random. I said, why wait? I want to get right in there.
Yes.
So we'll do it this Saturday, April 18th,
Yeah.
7:30 p.m.
Saturday night.
Right here, the same way you're watching this, right here on the Facebook page.
It's going to be great.
And but then I thought, you know what? I don't want to just, I want to make it have some other purpose other than just me showing off and doing my act.
Right.
Which is essentially what it is. So I said, okay, we'll call it a benefit. We'll say it's a benefit, and we'll put a link. We'll just put a link up to a charity.
Yes.
And then we'll say, well, as you watch the show, if you enjoy the show, contribute some dough to the charity. And we figured, what better charity to pick than first responders?
Oh, perfect.
Right, to help out with the, we have all these wonderful people who are just sacrificing so much time and effort working in the hospitals and everything, and they're overtaxed and overworked.
Healthcare workers.
And so there's a charity, the official New York State charity, set up to help them out and help with their expenses, etc.
Right.
It's called healthresearch.org.
Yeah.
So we figured, okay, I'll put that up. I'll say it's a benefit for first responders, for COVID first responders, and we'll do the big show.
I think that's a great idea.
So we're going to do it this Saturday, right? Okay, so I put up that announcement, right? And then a buddy of mine, a friend of mine, guy named, the guy, Ralph.
Oh, Ralph?
Yeah, kind of gets on my nerves, Ralph.
Yeah.
So Ralph, he's also a comedian, Ralph. And so he writes me, Ralph, he drops me a note. He felt compelled to drop me a note.
Yes.
Saying, Dave, instead of doing, and he was serious, he wasn't kidding. He said, instead of doing a benefit for the first, and by the way, when I say it's a benefit, I'm saying we're going to put up a thing. You click on the, if you want to donate some money.
People like it, they can, yeah.
And I don't have delusions of grandeur. I don't think I'm going to raise millions of dollars or anything like that.
That's a nice thing.
I just wanted to make it more than just me, telling my joke.
Everybody's thinking about.
Exactly. So he says, Dave, yeah, great, first responders, but hey, why don't you do a benefit for all the out of work comedians?
Uh-oh.
We've got it rough. We're out of work. We can't do our act anywhere.
Oh man.
Well, there's nowhere for us to go. We got bills to pay.
Yeah.
Ralph.
Oh man.
See, I am old enough to remember a time before email and before texting when if someone wanted to annoy you, they had to actually leave their house and find you. So, and I said, okay, Ralph, that's great. I'll give that some serious consideration. Now, listen, I'm an out-of-work comedian.
Well, today, yeah.
Yes, and I feel sorry for all my fellow out-of-work comedians. We're all stuck. We can't make a living. Whatever. But here's the thing, Ralph. Everyone's out of work.
That's right.
The whole country is out of work. Okay? And yes, laughter is the best medicine. Everybody needs entertainment. It's blah 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 blah. We're not, as it's currently defined, essential workers. This is my point.
Yeah.
Ralph.
Won't you help Ralph?
Ralph, if that's your real name. So, because here's people have these misconceptions. People think different things about stand-up comedy. People who don't like. And this is a semi-unrelated but related point.
Yeah.
Like people will say, "Oh, you do stand-up." Wow, that takes courage. Try telling that to a combat vet, okay? Yeah, my unit cleaned out a machine gun nest in Fallujah. We took heavy casualties. We had to go door to door fighting Al Qaeda, and I got stabbed in the head 7 times. Oh yeah, no, I know what you mean. I was on the Late Show at the Comedy Hut, and I was trying out these new jokes about online dating, and they did not go over well. I mean, I couldn't buy laugh one. So, I know what you mean about courage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, Doreen Collins is a stand-up, and she says, "Shut up, Ray."
See, Doreen Collins is funny.
Yeah.
So here's my point.
Yeah.
Yes, we need stand-up comics in America, and it's a thing that we do. But all I'm saying is there's a pecking order right now. It's an emergency.
Yes.
You've got your first responders.
Right.
Stand-up comics are not first responders. We're not even 27th responders. I'm not even sure we're even on the list.
You might not be on the list.
All I'm saying is, if God forbid,
Yeah. Yeah.
I have some kind of medical emergency, all right? Don't call some guy who's got a tight 5 minutes of masturbation jokes.
Oh, no.
Call a doctor.
I would.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Did we start the show?
Not yet. I'll get to it. This is the cold open. I'll get to it. And it's getting colder every second, I'll tell you that. If God forbid the apartment should burst into flames.
Yeah.
Don't call some guy who's got pithy observations on the uncomfortability of airline travel.
No.
Call the fire department.
I would.
Is my point.
I would. Don't yell it so loud. You're yelling.
I'm yelling, call the fire department in my apartment. Going to give people the wrong idea. If God forbid,
Yes.
a serial killer
Oh, dear.
should break into the apartment
Yeah.
in the middle of the night
Yeah.
and start strangling me in my sleep.
Oh, my God.
Don't call some guy who's working out a new routine about how women like to shop, but men just want to sit and watch sports.
Okay, I won't.
Call a cop.
I will.
That's what I'm saying.
I will.
Will you do that for me?
Got it.
All right, very good. And you know what that means?
What?
That means it's time for the Dave Konig Show on Facebook Live with my co-host seated a mere 6 feet away from me, social distance, safe keeping the lovely and talented bride of Konig, Susan Konig.
Hi, everybody.
That's her copyrighted catchphrase. There you go, Michael Feeling. You were waiting for that. Everybody's waiting for the hi, everybody catchphrase because they know that's when the show actually begins. You can really skip the first few minutes. Here we are on the big show, and we got, we got the Not Ready for Dave Konig players will be on the show. Yeah, featuring, of course, young Kevin,
Yeah.
wise guy, sparky guy, thinks he's the big breakout star of the show. He's all full of himself, this guy.
Wow.
Because he was in the Pit or the UCB or the Groundlings
Yeah,
or
he's a youngster.
one of those nitwit groups. So, later on, what we're going to do is we're going to recreate, I'm going to do my tribute to Arthur Godfrey, and I'm going to fire Kevin on the air, just like Julius LaRosa.
Oh, wow. That's a timely...
That's a topical reference.
Yeah.
That's a reference for those of you over the age of 70. Just got that joke.
Wow.
And also, the Dave Konig dancers.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. I called Gladys. She's the
captain.
dance captain, and she's one of the older gals.
Yes.
And Gladys had her knees completely removed.
Yeah, I heard about
She has no cartilage or bone structure whatsoever. She had an entire skeletal structure removed. Because these dancers, when they get older, it's and then she had 3 hip replacements.
Yeah.
And then they just took the hips out completely. They said, "The hell with it, Gladys. You got no hips anymore."
Yeah.
So Gladys is I called her today. I said, "How's it going?" She said, "I had another procedure." I said, "Gladys, what's going on with you?" She said, "Well, basically, I'm a head in a jar now." Gladys is just a head in a jar.
Oh, well.
She's got electrodes hooked up to her. But these dancers, she's a trooper.
Okay.
She says she's going to be on the show.
All right.
Dancing her little heart out.
Okay.
I said, "Gladys, I mean, really? Is that realistic?" She said, "I danced during the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, and I'll dance today."
Okay.
I said, "Gladys, how old are you?" So that's Gladys. She'll be on the show. And, of course, we have our studio audience here, a creepy sea captain guy.
Sure.
Oh, and big celebrity guest today.
Oh, who?
We have a triple play. For the first time in show history, we have 3 celebrity guests.
Really?
For Holy Week, we have Pope Benedict, Pope Francis, and Motown legend Gladys Knight. Yes, Gladys Knight and the Popes will be here.
Really?
Kid you not. Gladys Knight and the Popes will be right here on the show. So tune in for that.
Oh my gosh.
Now, I promised, by the way, how much time have I killed already?
Only 10 minutes.
Only 10 minutes. Show's almost over, and I haven't even started.
I know.
That's pretty good, right? I should save this for for tomorrow. From time to time on the show, we like to tell little show business anecdotes.
We do.
The kids seem to enjoy the show business
do.
anecdotes. Now, here's a little anecdote. Now, some of our anecdotes, and happily, I told the story of how I conned my way into the Broadway cast of the Broadway musical Grease.
That was a great story.
It's got a great happy ending. I end up on Broadway.
Yes.
You can't get better than that.
Yes.
And then, of course, I told the story of how I got hired and then almost fired, but didn't get fired, and ended up doing 2 episodes and playing
Mrs. Maisel.
2 different characters on Mrs. Maisel. That's a happy ending.
That's good.
There's a little twist today.
Yeah.
Not this, because show business is, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So this is one of those stories. We're going to tell the story today of me and Carol Burnett.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Classic.
Yeah, a classic story. Now, I used to do this story in my act back in the early or mid or late 90s, back when I was in my 20s. In the earlier mid or late 90s, depending on how much I'm currently lying about my age. And this was a staple of the old act. I have not done this bit in, for 3 decades now.
Oh my gosh.
So you are about to hear this for the first time in decades, the story of me. I'm trying to do something on the computer. It's not. Oh, there it is. The story of me and Carol Burnett.
Oh my gosh.
All right, and here we go. This is the story. We're going to, and for the first time in show history, we're going to have the Dave Konig Orchestra is going to come on, and they're going to set the stage with a little mood music. So,
Really?
and here we go.
Wow.
Say hi to some of the folks.
Well, your daughter Sarah's here. Jane Wallace.
Oh, great. That's great.
Sonia Rice.
All right.
Nathaniel. Joanne Collins.
Fantastic.
Nicholas Horn. Hi. Oh my gosh.
All right, here we
Great
go.
audience. Wait till you hear this one, because you're not going to believe it. You can sort of see it.
That's a good story. Oh, you can? Okay. Thank you very much. Oh, should have fade. It's supposed to fade out. That's better. It was a quick fade, actually. It was a hot summer day in the big city. The kind of heat that brings out the evil in men's souls. Some say the heat just makes people cranky. It's the humidity that brings out the evil in men's souls. But that's not important. What is important is my name's Konig, Dave Konig, and I'm a hack Jew comic. A while back, I got a call from my agent, Edith Ray of the world-famous Edith Ray Agency. She was long on legs, but short on commissions. But that's not important. Are you enjoying this?
Yeah.
All right, let me know every once in a while. All right, very good. I had been working the dive clubs for the short end money, doing jokes about chia pets and asking people where they were from. I had even sunk so low as to do a cheap 40s detective routine, even though everyone told me I did a lousy Bogart. And even if I had done a good Bogart, it was old hat, yesterday's news, about as fresh and original as a 50-year-old hooker the morning after a Kiwanis Club convention. Yes, I had sunk pretty low. But then, I got the call. It seems there was a doll on the West Coast who wanted to see me. Her name was Carol Burnett. She had been big once, but she'd fallen on hard times, bad breaks, poor career choices. Pete and Tilly, Choo Choo Charlie and the Philly Flash. Those are a couple of films she did.
Yeah.
But this was 1980. It was 1989. Should have told you that right at the top. It was 1989 when this story takes place. Yes, Carol Burnett. But she was loaded. She had enough money to choke a horse. And not just any horse, but a really, really big horse with a large thorax. The kind that doesn't choke easily. Oh, here, I do tell the date. It was August of 1989. I haven't done this in years. And she's putting together a new show called Carol and Company. Does this even sound remotely like Bogart? Sort of, kind of.
Go ahead.
She's putting together a new show called Carol and Company. She was looking for a few young comics with enough vim and spunk to fill the awesome comedic void left behind by Lyle Wagner and Ken Berry. She had seen my tape and liked it, And now she wanted to see me in person. Before I flew out there, my agent negotiated a contract. If I got the job, they'd have to lay out $6,500 a week, plus a car and driver to take me to the studio, because I never learned how to drive. Oh, I've been around the block a few times, but I always took the bus. When I boarded the plane to L.A., I made a crucial mistake. I ordered the tuna casserole. For 3,000 miles, my stomach cried out in anguish, like a left-wing civil rights activist at a dwarf-tossing contest. But I didn't care. I was on my way to big bucks, easy money, and perhaps my own personal corner on the Hollywood squares. I arrived at Walt Disney Studios in L.A. Walt wasn't there. The boys in Anaheim had put him on ice years ago. But she was there, a little older, a little shorter. The legendary queen of television comedy, Carol Burnett. She ran up to me like a schoolgirl with a bad case of the heebie-jeebies. "David," she said, "how are you?" I said I was fine, except I had ordered the tuna casserole. "That's wonderful," she said. "Isn't that wonderful?" The boys from Disney agreed enthusiastically, nodding their heads like those little toy dogs you see on the back of station wagons, along with the Garfield dolls with the suction cups on their feet, and the bumper stickers that say, "Honk if you love Jesus." If only Jesus knew the amount of gratuitous honking that occurred in his name, but how could he possibly know? They rubbed him out years ago. Probably the same gang of cheap thugs that put old Walt on ice up in Anaheim. They asked me to read a scene with Carol. I read the bit, and I was killing. I slayed them with timing. I mowed them down with ad-libs. I slapped them around a little with topical allusions. When I was through, there wasn't a dry throat in the house, and there was a lump in everyone's eye. Yes, the job was all but mine. I was looking at a steady gig. Turn the page. I was looking at a steady gig with all the trimmings, T-shirts, fan clubs, maybe even my own instantly recognizable catchphrase. Then the boys from Disney asked me to read it again, only this time with a funny accent. "Sure," I said, walking right into their trap. "I'm game." I read the bit again, only this time I didn't kill. I didn't mow them down. I didn't slap them around. I bombed. I stunk up the joint like an overripe melon in a cheap Waldorf salad. You could hear a cricket drop a pin. When I was through, and Carol Burnett shook my hand and said, "Goodbye," I could hear a faint sound in the distance. It was the sound of $6,500 a week, taking a fast train out of town. It was the sound of a jet plane, making a one-way trip back to Palookaville, back to the dive clubs for the short-end money. Of course, Carol & Company was a big bomb in the ratings and was soon canceled. But that's not important. What is important is I had a little taste of the good life, and it tasted like tuna casserole. Yes. That's what I said. I was going to try to do the music. Oh, there it is. I need a band. Say something funny while I do this.
You want a little Nixon there at the end.
my Bogart sounds like Nixon.
A little bit.
I can't get the music back. It doesn't matter. I was trying to get the Peter Gunn. Dun, 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 dun. So that's my Carol Burnett story. So here, and that's a true story. And
I remember.
Yeah, you remember that, right?
Yeah.
So I go out to California. Here's the thing. I auditioned for the show here in New York. She was putting together like a sketch comedy show. It was a big
Right.
comeback show. It was like 1989. And they auditioned for me here in New York. And I'm a kid. I'm a young kid filled with vim and spunk. And they fly me out to L.A. for the agent says, "You got a callback." I said, "Callback's in L.A. with Carol." I said, "Oh, my God." They put me on a plane. They fly me out there. I read with Carol. Now, they had given me a scene to read with Carol.
Yeah.
And the scene was that she is the maid. She's like the char woman with the mop.
Oh, that, yeah.
And it's a church, and it's her church, and they lost the lease. They're going to close the church. She prays to God, send her a guardian angel. I'm the guardian angel, right?
Okay.
That's a comedy sketch. So I read the sketch, and I at the time I'm in my 20s, and I look like I'm 12. I had a
That's true.
baby face, right? So I decided, well, the only way to do this sketch is to do it like I'm an innocent young, like I'm a guardian angel. It's the first time I've ever done this, right?
Right, that's good.
So I start doing the sketch with Carol Burnett, and everything I'm doing is killing.
Yeah.
From the first second. I mean, huge laughs in the room, big laughs. And Carol Burnett's looking at me like, ooh. And she's reading with me, and I'm making all the right choices. I'm hilarious.
Right.
And she starts ad-libbing. She starts improvising. She goes off the script. So I go off the script. And so weird like this. It's like a tennis match. Bing, bing. And she's looking at me like, ooh. And it was intense. We were, it was like comedy lovemaking is what it was. Oh, it was intense. And we get done, and she throws her arms around me. And she says to the producer, who was Matt Williams, big producer, he produced the Roseanne show.
Yeah.
And she says, I don't need to see anymore. Do you need to see anymore? I don't need to see anymore. That's it. And I had the job.
Oh.
And they do, before they fly out there, they have to give you a contract. And I didn't have a pot to piss in at the time. I think I had to borrow money to get to the airport, And but they give you the contract. They show you what you will get paid over 10 years if the show lasts 10 years.
Oh my God.
And it was money. It was real money. And so she says, I don't need to see anymore. And Matt Williams, the producer, he says, no, that's great. I don't need to see anymore. That's great. He comes over, he's about to shake my hand. He goes, you know what? As long as you're here, do it again. Now, right away, you're sunk. They've already heard the jokes. You're not going to get the same laughs twice. Right?
Right.
I killed with it. And now they want me to do it again. Only this time, do it the exact opposite. Now do it like he's an old wise guy, like a Sharpie, And instead, what I should have said was, I have an aneurysm. I have to go. I suddenly have an aneurysm. I have to leave right now.
Yeah.
But thank you, and run out, and I would have had the job.
Right.
But instead, I said, "Oh boy, sure, I'll show you what I can do." So then I did it the exact. And it wasn't funny. It just wasn't that good. And Carol Burnett, and she did. She came over to me like as if it was a funeral. She went, "Thank you, thank you for coming." So that's the true story.
It wasn't meant to be.
It was not meant to be.
It's not meant to be.
And I remember at the time thinking that Carol Burnett, when I met her, I thought, ooh, she looks so much older than, because she was, than I remembered her from the 1960s,
Right.
And I looked her up.
Yeah.
I looked up the age she was then.
In 1980.
Yeah, she wasn't that old.
She was younger than
Well, I don't want to say she was younger than us, but she wasn't that old.
Okay.
Oh, looks like we're out of time.
Yes, we are out of time.
Did you enjoy the show today?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the Carol Burnett monologue?
Dave Anderson came, and Dara Fane.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
Wonderful. Thank you all for joining us. Unfortunately, both Gladys Knight and the two popes are in quarantine, so Gladys Knight and the popes could not be here tonight.
Okay.
But we're going to try and get them back some other time. Until then, tune in tomorrow and tune in Saturday right here at 7:30. I'm going to do a full hour stand-up comedy special as a benefit for COVID first responders.
It'll be a party.
And we'll put a link up there, and you can donate some dough to them, but you can watch the show and have a good time. And we'll do that. And until then, Michael Feeling, thank you for, I'm so glad we had this time together. Chuck Montgomery, God bless. Major Dave Anderson watching the show. Major Dave. And everyone watching, thanks so much. Tune in tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
Bye.